Welcome to Stories from the Center of the Universe, the podcast about the human experience.
Sue Watson, welcome to the Center of the Universe.
Oh, thank you. It's nice to be in the center of the universe.
Now, Sue, my first memories of growing up in Ashland have you in them.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, so I was born in 1968. When did you move to Ashland?
We moved to Ashland in 1970.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't even 2 yet when you moved
right.
to Ashland. What part of town did you live in when y'all first moved?
Well, funny you should say, do you know the house that is the closest to the railroad tracks in Ashland?
The closest to the railroad tracks?
The closest to the railroad tracks that looks exactly like it did in 1970.
Is it close to downtown Ashland?
Not too far from down, a couple of blocks.
Okay. It's on the east side of the tracks. Yeah, I generally know where you're talking about.
Green asbestos shingle.
Oh, yeah. That's where y'all moved to.
That was the only house that we could find that was for rent. In 1970.
Okay.
And Ritchie wanted to be able to ride his bicycle to campus. He was going to teach English at the college. And so we rented that house. My parents walked in and thought, what in the world?
How old were y'all at the time?
Well, we just gotten married in 1969. So we got married in the summer of 1969 and moved here then.
Okay.
No, we lived a year in Chapel Hill after we got married, because he was finishing up his doctorate.
Okay, gotcha.
And then we came the next year. He did the interview and all that kind of stuff and got a good job in the English department.
Okay.
But the first night, you couldn't go, every time a train would go by, it was like the train was coming into the house.
Because I can't imagine you grew up near a railroad track, right? You didn't.
Almost. Oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
That was your first railroad track experience, I imagine.
True. But first anybody would ever have. Right now, if you wanted to have the closest railroad track experience in Ashland, you would spend the night in that house.
It's right there.
It's right there, and they've done nothing to it.
Yeah, it's the tracks, then the road, and then a sidewalk, and then a pretty tiny front yard, and then there's
About
the house.
as far as I am to you.
Yeah, it's not big at all. Yeah, I think there are rules against that these days.
I hope.
Yeah.
We can only hope.
How long were you there?
Well, let's see, we came here in 1970, and we moved in, Bill and Eugenia Gibson lived in the house next door to where we live now. And
Parents of Candler and Miles.
Correct. And they, there was a house on the lot that we lived in, and it burned down. And so Bill and Eugenia bought the lot and got rid of the burnt house.
Right.
And so we became friends with Bill and Eugenia, and so they offered us the lot. I guess they were waiting to see who they could get for the next neighbors, which was very generous of them. We were lucky. And so we proceeded to build a house, which was very nice. And of course, at the time we had no children at all, and I think we had I don't even know if we had a dog, we had a cat, but that was it. And so we were really lucky to get that wonderful lot and the wonderful neighborhood, and everybody, they had a company. It was interesting. They had the neighborhood over for supper one night soon after we moved in, and people were telling Ashland stories, and we thought, well, there are a lot of characters in this town, aren't there? And they live close by, and they do.
Yeah, true then and true now.
Yeah.
Every memory I have of you, it's associated with that house, or I've always just associated you and Ritchie with that house.
Yeah, and it's a great house. Ritchie loves the yard, loves to garden. I love to enjoy what he does in the yard, and so that's, it's very nice. I belong to the garden club, but he's the gardener.
Well,
it works.
That's, I think, ironic a little bit.
Yes, it is. But the neighborhood changes too. It's wonderful to have Henry Clay over there across the street and have children playing in the yard at weekends, summer, whatever. It's a good neighborhood.
That's great. You did not grow up in Virginia, though. Where'd you grow up?
Grew up in Wilson, North Carolina.
What is Wilson known for?
It was the world's greatest tobacco market.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure if largest, but they called it great. It's sort of maybe whatever. Anyway, it's a nice size, probably more than 30 or 40,000 people.
So pretty big relative to Ashland.
Correct.
Yeah.
But my father's family had always lived there, and when they got married, they stayed there. And he had 10 brothers and sisters,
Oh, boy.
most of whom still lived there. So I had 12 first cousins, and the family was very close. His father had died when he was 18, so he and all of the brothers, the men in the family, went to work pretty quick to pay for the daughters to go to college so they could be school teachers. The men did, Daddy started out in a service station and then became a trucking company, which did well, and we were lucky for that, and he was. And there were nobody was boring in the family, or is today, which is,
Mostly a good thing, I imagine.
Yes.
Entirely a good thing.
One good thing out of my father's story, when I guess most girls, I don't know whether you did, Chris, but I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Chris Dull is in the house with us tonight.
Yes. Always loved animals, just forever. And like I remember the time I got ducks and chickens for Easter, in the Easter basket, the Easter, and all the Forbeses were coming for a barbecue. There was a truck driver barbecuing a pig out there, but it was on a Sunday, and so I went to church. When I got back, we played around with everything. Only in the next, several weeks later did I learn that my English bulldog Spot had gotten hold of some of the creatures that the Easter Bunny had brought me, and so my father had to run out somewhere and find replacements while I was in.
He's a good dad.
He was a very good dad. He also, I loved horses, and we would go to horse shows all over everywhere. And then my fifth grade teacher wrote on my report card, "I'll be glad when Sue develops an interest in something other than horses." But Daddy loved golf, but he stopped playing golf when I was 10 and rode horses with me until I was 14, every Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Wow. He's putting me to shame as a dad.
Yeah, he should.
Yeah.
It was really, and I had a horse named Betsy, and he had a horse named Christmas, and our friend Choppy Fields, who owned this farm outside of town, boarded them all, and he also rode with us. So, you could do that, and most of the men in the Forbes family rode horses and did just, pleasure horses. They weren't. My Uncle Wiley's was 5-gated, and he pranced around, but the rest of them were just...
Were people riding horses in town kind of thing?
Well, just you'd go out and get on the horses and then ride through the farms and the fields, and then you'd come to the road and go into Lafayette Drive and get some water and get back on the horse and go out again.
Do you go back to Wilson much these days?
Well, a lot of my uncles and aunts and my parents are dead, but my brother still lives there, and his one daughter, and there, a couple of other cousins have moved back to town.
Okay.
And when we go to Topsail Beach, we go through Wilson.
Okay.
And so we always make a stop at the Burger Boy, which is this place.
Still there?
It's still there.
Okay.
Daddy and a friend of his who went into the entertainment business and had a drive-in and a putt-putt. The putt-putt's still there, but the Burger Boy is still there, and somebody else owns it now, but we always have to go to the Burger Boy.
It's been around forever.
And
Wow.
then we go to Parker's and get barbecue and go on
Carolina
to
barbecue.
Yes.
Which is, I'm from Virginia, but Carolina barbecue is
it's
the best.
the best, and yes, it's wonderful. So we always have to take that with the hush puppies and everything to Topsail Beach, and then we have to stop back, coming back, and take it when we come back to Ashland.
Oh, of course, yeah.
But anyway,
Every time I drive through Carolina or I go to Carolina, I'm always looking for Carolina
and
barbecue.
there are other places that you can get it, but sort of sentimentally, I feel like I have to do that.
Yeah, why wouldn't you? All right, so horses. I was going to ask you what it was like growing up in Wilson.
I mean, everybody didn't ride horses, although I will say one of my good friends who lived 2 doors down also rode with Daddy and me. And she left Wilson and married a doctor in Raleigh. And this Christmas, it was funny because she has had 3 deaths in her family in the last 6 months, which is awful. But in her Christmas card to me, she included a picture of Betsy and me, which was, I didn't even know she had it. There.
She's had that a while.
She's had it for quite a while, yes. No, but it's interesting. our Greensboro younger granddaughter likes to ride, so she's taking
great.
riding lessons. No jumping though. She does, but our horses didn't do any of that stuff. That's Virginia stuff.
For showing off kind of thing.
Makes it more stressful.
So when you were like in middle school, high school, were you all about the academics, or did you have interest outside of school?
I started taking dancing lessons when I was 3.
Oh, wow.
And
That's unusual.
well, Mary Bell did. She did whatever. Her mother was in vaudeville, and she was really good about making people look good on stage. And wonder how I've used that in my later life.
We will talk about that.
She was good about getting people comfortable on stage and, learning enough to not make sometimes make fools of yourself. Anyway, and she took us places, like she drove us, she went to the World's Fair in New York City, and she had a big station wagon, and she'd drive a car full of kids. We went to see Carol Channing and Hello Dolly, and
oh boy,
but you also, when you went to see a play, you went around to the stage door when it was over, so you could get an autograph from the stars, which I have enjoyed doing that with our grandchildren.
So you have a few autographs
somewhere. I don't even know where they are. Linda Jackson we saw somewhere. I can't remember. Anyways, there are that habit. Is still in our life. In fact, for Thanksgiving, we're going to go. Jane Forbes' family lives in Greensboro, and so we're all going to go up to New York because I was determined that the 2 girls, Emma Forbes and Susan, will get to see Hugh Jackman and Sutton Foster in Music Man.
And y'all need to get his autograph if you can.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if we see a matinee, he probably doesn't meet and greet between that and the 8 o'clock show, but he might.
It's a big day for
it's a big
guy
day.
Like that.
Yeah, but it's closing mid-January.
So you did dance from the age of 3, and it sounds like you also did some theater along the way.
Well, not real theater. We just went to see plays.
Okay, so you're a connoisseur.
We just love it. Yeah, and enjoy it.
So when you were in high school, it was all about the academics, and were you still dancing?
Danced till I graduated. We had stunt night in the high school, and so there would always be some. This sounds bragging, but it doesn't mean that the quality of my dancing is.
You're just telling a story, so.
Physical ed requirements at Duke, you had to take so much physical ed.
Right.
So I thought, well, this might be someplace that I could get an easy, good grade.
I had a couple of those classes.
So I signed up for TAP.
Okay.
The lady called me into her office and said, "You cannot take this class. You could teach it, but you cannot take it." That's my only academic experience like that at Duke, let me say. It was not, I thought I ought to get a break somewhere.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing to get a break.
You had to take calculus to pass the math requirement. Nobody in Wilson had ever even heard of calculus. All these other kids were there, and they had the same book and everything.
We're going to talk about Duke in a second. So when you say dance, you're talking about a lot of different forms of dancing.
Yeah, but and I'm not saying that I was that good. I'm just saying that we all had fun dancing. And
you enjoyed it.
We had a good time.
And you did a lot of it. So you probably became pretty good at it.
Well, you can probably ask some of my friends who do a tap number in the Ashland Musical Variety Show, and they will say that we do the same dance basically every show because they know, we've learned it.
Right,
I've taught it to them, and it's fun.
All right, so Duke University, and I'm going to try to contain myself and not say anything negative about Duke University.
Thank you. I would appreciate that.
I am. I'll just say I went to a school that lost to them in basketball
Recently.
a lot. Well, all the time, just about.
I will tell you, the 4 years I was there, we were 4th in the country, 3rd in the country, and 2nd in the country, and never 1st.
And that was before Coach K.
Yeah, it was Vic Bubas. It was in the 60s.
Yeah, so they have a program that goes way back before
and it was
Coach
fun,
K.
and I never missed a game in the 4 years I was there.
Was it crazy like that?
Oh, yeah.
Cameron Crazies were a thing back then?
Yes. Well, I don't think that we called it that. All you had to do was show your student ID and go in. And not that many women, because women were all on East Campus, and you had to take a bus to get over to Cameron. But it was just too much fun not to go. So I would.
It was the sport. It was the event.
Oh, it was wonderful. Art Heyman was the big star then, and he was good.
Yeah.
They did well.
All right, so I associate Duke University with a lot of kids from the Northeast these days. Was it like that when you went there?
I wouldn't say just the Northeast. They were from all over the country.
Okay. And that was true back then, too.
Yeah, but I went, there were 3 of us from my high school that were in my class at Duke, who were good friends and, continued. One was a pediatrician in Raleigh, and the other one was at IBM, before the beginning of IBM, I guess.
Duke is not an easy school to get into.
No.
It never has been.
No, it's interesting because my mother's people lived 2 blocks from the Duke women's campus, so I was used to being there. We'd go visit them, and we'd go over on the campus and climb the magnolia trees and tell stories and stuff. So it was really neat to be able to be 2 hours from my grandmother, who was a real musician. Had she been a man, she would have probably been a concert pianist, but she was a woman, so she
born too early, born too soon.
Taught piano in the living room. But that was fun too, to be that close to her when someone like Arthur Rubinstein came, a very fine pianist.
Right.
She could come over and go to the concert with me.
Was Duke your only choice? Is that the only place you wanted to go?
Well, I think I applied to mainly women's colleges in Duke, and actually went to have an interview after I'd been accepted to talk to the admissions person. Do you think I'd really like it here, kind of thing, just to,
And you did like it.
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
We had all women's dorm, and you'd have freshman, sophomore, 4 years of women, and that was a good way to really make close friendships. And I still have really close friends from those 4 years at Duke, particularly women.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. I was thinking about that today because we were talking about the role of women and how women are, we won't get political here, but there are lots of always issues that are different. And I was involved in what we call the YWCA, but had nothing to do with the gym where you go swim like Ritchie does in the Y here.
Right.
But it was The Age of the Feminine Mystique, and Betty Friedan was the book that came out, and it talked about the way women are not treated, respected, or whatever as men are, and the dynamics between the sexes in a culture where, particularly, people at Duke expected to go to get good jobs just like the male students, because
right.
Many of them were, I wasn't, but many of them were, top students and everything else. So there was a lot of discussion within the women's community, not so much with the men. But that was interesting because it only got more so. I mean, the age of women's liberation, as we called it. It was important to have those dialogues, and with good women professors.
Yeah. Well, and it's led to, from my perspective, a culture where it feels more
equitable.
Equitable is a good word, but maybe not perfect. Still not perfect.
I think we still have a long way to go. I mean, well, we won't go in. We could spend the rest of the day talking about it depends on the dynamics of the relationships.
All right. What did you end up majoring in at Duke?
I really like the religion department. Duke has a divinity school that's really good, and I just happened to take whatever it was, religion, and the professors were really nice, and all of them invited you to their home, and it was a very interesting dynamic in the classes. And I thought my father was not too happy about paying the Duke tuition for me to be a Sunday school teacher.
It's not a cheap school.
No. And so I really majored in religion and English.
Okay.
To be an English teacher.
So the idea was you wanted to teach
and
English.
I did, yeah, in high school.
And you did that right after graduating?
Yeah, I went to student teaching and all of that. And that was good because there were some wonderful teachers. Duke was good about bringing in, I'm sure they still are today, people from all kinds of expertise, areas of expertise. And There's a wonderful chapel there, Duke Chapel, that has 150 people singing in the choir, and they bring in very fine theologians and who's preaching. So, I mean, you get on the bus and go to hear the best preaching I've ever heard in my life, or ever could have. They always did the Messiah every. It's just a wonderful place to go, and for that. And towards the end, my class was not integrated, but the class after me, Mimi Rubin, was in it, and she was one of the first African American students at Duke, and was a friend in the Y board with me, her parents, and so she became a Duke on the board of trustees. But one good memory for me in that whole era was Martin Luther King Jr. came and talked one night.
You were getting exposure to all kinds of things.
Well, exactly.
Going to Duke, right?
Yeah, it was just, Wilson didn't do that kind of thing.
Right.
But we were all sitting up in the front, in the balcony, and he spoke, and I don't even remember who else was with him, but it was a real entourage. And in the end of it, everybody stood and held hands and sang, "We Shall Overcome." And that was powerful, because
got to be one of the most powerful things you've
well,
ever
it was.
experienced.
I mean, it was a spontaneous thing. Nobody said everybody hold hands and do it. It just happened. And for the first time also, I mean, Raleigh is real close to Wilson, and my family was really good about taking us to Raleigh to hear Perry Como, because he was sponsored by Chesterfield, or whatever, Leggett Myers, is that? I don't even know what.
Sounds right.
Whatever, anyways. But they would go and see him every year, and Gene Autry came. Anyway, but to see that kind of entertainment, and then people like Aretha Franklin and Peter, Paul, and Mary would come to Duke.
Yeah, they were huge.
Ray Charles. It was wonderful.
Massive stars.
Yes, and just to be, as close as I am to you.
Right.
That was special.
Yeah, super special.
And I will say, and Ritchie would insist that I say, that they also had them over at Chapel Hill. But see, I didn't know him then. So we did not go over there. And they had a basketball team, too.
I understand.
They did.
They have a decent history with basketball and beating my alma mater in that sport quite a bit.
Seven miles away. So there's a lot of interesting dynamics in the sports world.
I mean, it is amazing to have two schools that are perennial that good in one sport be only 7 miles away in North Carolina, of all places.
Yeah, and they're good, and it's fun to be on that campus, because there was always something like that going on, whether it was football or... People used to dress up, though, for football. You didn't have to dress up to go to basketball games.
Really?
I don't know why that is.
Oh, that is weird. We dressed up for football games even in the late 80s, but not for basketball. Yeah.
But it's fun to be in Ashland right now with the celebration for the basketball team being, winning the national championship in Division III, but that's a big deal.
That's a huge deal.
We're going
because you have 52 years of memories about Randolph-Macon.
Yes.
Silent Rob is also here tonight. I have memories of playing in the gym over there, going to their basketball camp, and the fact that Josh and Buzz led that team, and I mentioned their two names because they were National Coach of the Year and National Player of the Year. They've also been on the podcast.
Have they really?
They've both been on the podcast,
we are getting ready. We're in the middle of working on our Ashland Musical Variety Show for this year, which is March 23rd, 24th, 25th.
Love it.
And we... in 1995, honored Patrick Henry's state championship football team.
They won it in 94, and then, the following spring.
Right.
Yeah.
And so this year we're going to get the Patrick Henry volleyball team, which has won 6 state championships.
They're unbelievable. Yeah,
unbelievable.
Yeah.
In a row. 6 in a row. Yeah.
And they might win this one. They're playing...
they're already in the state semis now.
So it might be 7 by the time the game. And the Randolph-Macon basketball team, which they don't know yet at Randolph-Macon, but we're going to get them to come up on the stage. But that's exciting to have those two things, and we're going to...
Oh, yeah.
We Are the Champions will be the song that will...
Of course.
Escort them up on the stage.
All right, I may have asked you this question like 30 years ago, but as I've always... wondered how you and Ritchie got together.
Oh, I thought you were going to say how we survived Duke in Carolina.
Well, that's coming.
Well, I went straight from Duke to Atlanta because I had good friends who were going to go there and to teach, and taught for a year, and then I decided I would go and get a master's degree and went to Carolina, went to Chapel Hill.
Does that happen a lot? Duke undergrads going to get master's degrees at UNC?
I don't know.
I guess it happens.
Well,
it happened in your case.
It happened in my case. It seems like a good place to go.
Sure.
Anyway. So, but I had a good time in Atlanta, and it was a good school, and the people were very nice, but decided this, if I was going to go, might as well do it at this point. And the time my father had a trucking company, he had a truck driver who would go from one apartment to the next, just moving stuff, bless his heart. But it was nice to have help with that.
Absolutely.
But moved into a big high-rise dorm and started classes and took classes with other people. And the last class I took at Chapel Hill, Ritchie was in. And so we met there, and then I had already signed a contract to go up to Bel Air, Maryland to teach. I'm not exact why. Anyway, it was another good school, whatever. But I'd already signed the contract, so I had to go. And he was still finishing up his classes, and I think was ready to just do the examinations for his doctorate. And so I moved, after we finished that, I moved to Bel Air, Maryland for a year and traveled back and forth to Chapel Hill, or he came up to Maryland.
I'm asking this question for your grandkids and maybe your kids, your daughters. Did Ritchie ask you out?
Well, we sat next to each other in this class, and then after class we'd always end up going into the Pine Room, which was a place to eat, and we sort of,
So you were friends?
We just, and we had mutual friends, and we'd go out to basketball games. That was when, I think maybe Charlie Scott was there then, but on Chapel Hill. But he was from Raleigh. He had grown up in Duplin County and then Raleigh, and we pretty soon started dating. And by the time I moved to Maryland, he was, which is where I'd signed a contract to go, we were pretty close. Yeah. And in fact, got engaged that Christmas.
All right.
And
so it'd been about a year of you knowing each other.
Yeah. Well, when you're old like that, you like a Hallmark TV show. Anyway, and then got married June 21st, 1969.
And my impression of you two, y'all have had a wonderful relationship and marriage the whole time.
We were really lucky to have found each other. His family is wonderful, and he has some characters in it too, but makes me feel right at home. But and his parents couldn't have been nicer to me, which is wonderful.
Yeah, that's a massively important bonus when that works out.
We were lucky about that, and we lived in Chapel Hill for the first year of our marriage, and ended up renting an apartment underneath this dentist, big house that this Chapel Hill dentist had. And somebody in Wilson knew about it. Anyway, we just stayed there, and I taught in a middle school there. I guess it was a junior high school then, gifted kids, and that was interesting. And
was Ritchie finishing up?
Yeah, he had already finished all of his classes. He was in the process of defending his dissertation.
Yes.
And was interviewing. And somebody from Randolph-Macon called his advisor to see if they had somebody ready to come teach American literature. So he went up to Ashland. He has a wonderful story about coming into Ashland and doing his interview and walking onto the campus and realizing it was the town that he had seen from a train when he went up to see his aunt in New Jersey.
That's really neat.
And it was, he then was very excited because he loved trains even then. And,
wow, okay.
And it was it's a lovely train ride through a town.
Yeah.
When you see all that. And so he got the job, and it's history. It was a wonderful place for us to be and for him to teach in. It was, at the time it was all men, but they quickly brought in women.
Was there any point where you guys had thought about going anywhere else?
Well, once he got there, there were not a lot of jobs. Because it's very specific. You had to have a specialty in a certain part of English, and but it was a good distance from our families. It was easy to get down to Wilson or Raleigh, or more importantly, in some ways, Topsail Beach, which is where Ritchie's family always went, and we still do have a place there, and which is a wonderful place to escape to, Family Beach. But it was a good. Ashland was very attractive just because of what it still is.
When did you feel like you were from Ashland?
Well, I interviewed for a teaching job, and we moved up here into the house I described to you.
Yeah.
And but I interviewed for Enrico in Hanover, and Hanover had just banned To Kill a Mockingbird.
Doesn't make any sense to me.
I had taught To Kill a Mockingbird in North Carolina, Maryland, everywhere Georgia,
Yeah.
Atlanta. And I thought, I'm not going to teach in a system that has banned To Kill a Mockingbird.
I wouldn't either.
So I went to Hermitage High School and taught for 3 years. But at the end of the 3 years, I was pregnant and with daughter Susan, and stopped teaching, and was soon after appointed to the school board.
Oh, that was quick.
Which was, I think it was in 1976. Anyway,
that was really quick, right?
Yeah.
And this is the school board for the school system that you didn't want to teach in.
Correct, which was interesting. But
did you almost turn that down?
I turned it down. Not the school board, because by then I knew that it was a way I could still be involved in something that was so important to me. And Nina Peace was the supervisor who appointed me, and
right.
And the schools were poised to get just to really turn only better and better, and that was exciting to be a part of that process. And I could manage it with one, and then 2 years later another one, daughters.
Right.
And Miss Carr, thank God, lived next door to us on James Street, and she could come over for babysitting. Did y'all remember Miss Carr?
I remember the name.
Mr. Rome. She lived upstairs in Mr. Rome's house. Anyway, no, it was a wonderful way to be involved in something that made a difference. And they, by the way, did away with the ban of To Kill a Mockingbird.
My gosh.
They didn't. I can't take no credit for that. That was something that they did. I think Harper Lee wrote them a letter, and
oh, really?
Yeah, it's a wonderful letter from her.
Oh, do we? Is that somewhere?
Yeah, I've got it somewhere because I did a paper on it at one point.
You don't have the original.
No, but just have a copy of it.
Yeah, but still, yeah, that's really cool.
And it was put back into the school system, needless to say.
Yeah, of course.
It's just one of those things can happen.
Silly little moments in time. Yeah. How did you and Nina connect?
Well, her husband, Carl Peace, taught at Randolph-Macon in mathematics, and I guess we sort of were pregnant at the same time, and got to meet through Randolph-Macon activities. And Nina, I'm sure if you remember her, was easy to get to know because she was very open, and
she had a big personality,
big, larger than life, and she was very interested in improving things. And she lived up in Maryland, and had a much more worldly background than a lot of people who lived here. But I already had Susan and was pregnant with Jane Forbes, and went into the hospital to have Jane Forbes when Nina went into I had gallstones. Jane Forbes, I always say having her divide. Anyway, had gallstones and had to have, after she was born, 10 days later, I guess it was 10 days later, I don't remember. Anyway, soon after I had to have my gallbladder removed, which was a major operation then. It was, they didn't have the, whatever you call it.
Where they break it up.
Anyway, so when I was in St. Mary's having the gallbladder operation, Nina came in to have Chris. And so my father's sitting in my hospital room, keeping me company, and Carl Pease, who was from Statesboro, Georgia, which was one of the places that Daddy always went during the tobacco market with the trucking, Statesboro. So he and Carl talked about Statesboro the whole time poor Nina was having the baby, and I was there getting over this massive
serious surgery.
Serious surgery at the time. But one of those memories that you think. So I knew Chris when he was literally a few minutes old.
I was going to say minutes old,
or at least saw him from afar, and continued to be good friends with Nina. She was quite a good friend.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's Randolph-Macon is and was a very tight community. It's been that way my entire life, and it sounds like before.
Well, I think they gave Ritchie the job of being in charge of the Washington Literary Society. I guess they give new people those things, but that meant he had to bring in. There was some money to bring in writers and poets and whatever, and that's fun too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
To go places and whatever.
What's your fondest memory of being on the school board? Because you're the longest serving school board member in our county's history, I think.
Probably the first woman, and then the first.
Oh, I didn't realize you were the first woman as well. First woman and 36
years.
Yeah.
Fondest memory. There were so many. We had so many good people that worked for us. I served with J.K. Sample, Steve Baker, Stuart Robertson, Jamel Wilson. Who did I leave out?
It sounds like probably a few, but don't worry about it.
That would be bad. But Stuart and Jamel were the last ones that I worked with, and just amazing. There were lots of good things that happened. The school system became stronger and stronger, and had good opportunities for improvements, and people were serious about it. Wonderful teachers, your mother being one of them. She taught both of our girls in kindergarten at Henry Clay.
She wasn't allowed to teach me, which is probably a good thing for both of us.
No, she was outstanding. We still have wonderful teachers.
Yeah, I mean, I went to Hanover County Public Schools kindergarten through 7th grade, and I have great memories of growing up in that system.
It was good for them to be in a school system that had lots of different kinds of students and opportunities and all, and they both went to Carolina and did fine, in their future careers and whatever. So Susan's working for Marsh McLennan, anyway.
No, let's talk about Susan and Jane Forbes.
Well, they're both wonderful. Susan's the oldest, and she lives in England, works for Marsh remotely through the D.C. office.
Okay.
Where she worked. She lived in Maryland for several years, and she still does that. She has 3 children. I don't know how she survives all of that. And they're wonderful. They still have their house in Maryland, but they now live in England.
Did she marry a Brit?
No, she married a Alabama man who was a physician.
Okay.
And now he is in charge of an organization that was developed by Bill Gates and countries, several places, and to prevent pandemics in 2015, before we heard of the pandemics.
Right.
And so they moved to England. I'm not sure, exactly why England, but anyway, he has an office in London, but he has some in D.C. too. So
yeah. Well, England's a pretty neat place.
It's good, and they've taken good advantage of it in terms of traveling, because it's easy to travel everywhere.
You can go to lots of neat places
They
in Europe.
can go whereas we would go to New York at the same time they can go to Paris or wherever. So And they do, and they have 3 children. Jane Larkin has just graduated from high school last year. We all went to the graduation, which was nice. And I'm very delighted she's in school in this country. She's up at Wellesley and has been there now for several months. Well, since August 31st.
A while. Yeah.
A while. We were glad that she chose to do that, and I think it's a good fit for her. It's a really good, strong school, and she's a good, strong student, but not an extrovert. She's, we went up and they had parents weekend, and her family's the parents are all in England, so Ritchie and I did a long day did I tell you this, on the train on Friday, and she came over and stayed with us on Friday night, and then Saturday we did the program and all, and people like Madeline Albright went there,
right.
and she's endowed some professors, and so the ambassador from Britain spoke that morning, and we just talked about diplomacy and how that all works, and a lot of the women there are obviously very successful graduates or whatever.
No, that's great.
Which was nice, and then we came back on the train for another 9 hours on Sunday. But it was worth it to get to see her and meet her friends, and we think it feels like a good match. Now Thomas, on the other hand, is the next. He's a senior this year, and he spent the summer looking at colleges, which was his excuse to see the United States of America. He went everywhere looking at colleges. And he's a very strong student, very interested in politics, and he's finishing up his applications, and gosh only knows where he'll go, but they'll be lucky to get him, just like Wellesley's lucky.
Are you hoping he ends up somewhere near you?
Yeah, Georgetown is one of his schools, which would be awfully nice. But, up the East Coast, of course, he's been to Chicago, he's been up to New England, so who knows what he'll do, or where he go,
Right.
Who knows? And then there's Kate, who is, she's in middle school, so she's still in England, but she's wonderful, too. They all are. And they really like coming to Topsail Beach and spending time there. Then Jane Forbes is in Greensboro.
Okay.
And she followed her parents in being an educator.
Okay.
And she taught, and then she had Emma Forbes. And since then she's been working, and I'm not exactly, she does it all from home, and she seems to have a office leadership. I'm not sure what exactly she deals with safety things in a construction company from home.
All right.
And she works hard, and I'm sure they're lucky to have her because she's smart and good too. But Emma Forbes is her oldest child, their oldest child, she and Joey. And Joey's in business with his father, a textile thing in Greensboro. And Emma Forbes is just dear, and she's really close to Thomas and Jane Larkin, which is nice. Not long after Jane Larkin left and went off to college, Emma Forbes called us the next week, and she said she had Friday off. She said, I'd like to take the train up and spend the weekend with you all. And what more could you ask?
Grandkid says that?
Yes. I mean, it was just wonderful. We said, of course, because the train wasn't going to stop in Ashland. So I went to Staples Mill and got her, and she's learned that she can do that, and it's wonderful. And she's great about just all the kids love Ashland, and they love the trains. Thomas, and he had a friend who goes to the school, Tassus, the school they go to in England, his family lives in Annapolis, and they all came for 5 days over Christmas just to be able to be in, it was this summer, like right at the end of the school year. The summertime before they all went back to school. And the kids would just go out for walks. None of them drive. They don't drive in England, so, but they would walk up to a waffle place, and they loved
Waffle House.
Waffle House.
Yeah.
They just loved the train thing. They are totally, especially the 2 boys, Thomas and his buddy.
There are a lot of train fans that come to Ashland
and just hang out. And they wanted to sit at the Iron Horse and eat. They like to sit anywhere they can eat and watch trains. Suzanne said, you name it, they're very happy, which is an entertainment for them. Who would think it? In the summertime, they have to go. King's Dominion is another attraction, but,
Sure.
They really like to be here. And we've gotten real comfortable with letting them do things. And Emma Forbes, when she was here, we just walked around. And one of the things she's doing, she just finished middle school, and so she's finally in high school, and she is in a high school for the performing arts. And I thought, that's great. She can sing and she can play the guitar and everything, but her specialty is music production, which means she learns how to do all this kind of sound stuff, and
She's an audio expert, effectively.
I guess, audio and sound, light and sound.
Oh, so visual as well. Okay.
I'm not sure. But we walked down through the college to see what Nancy Hugo's Osage Orange, there's an Osage Orange tree.
Yeah.
You know about Osage oranges? Well, and now we all do. We're experts because of Nancy. And we were walking back, and Hanover Arts and Activity Center was having some festival or something. And Jim Jones, a bunch of guys who play in the pit band for our show, were setting up a thing there. And Emma Forbes just was fascinated. She and Jim and all these guys that were setting up chords, and they had this conversation that I was not an expert about. And so, but I enjoyed watching them interact and get ready for their production. So, people can get real jobs doing that kind of thing.
And she probably loves it, too.
And she loves it.
Yeah.
She's now saying that she might be a part of a band, but maybe not. But for high school, that's nice to have that kind of skill. So anyway.
That's great.
So, and there is, her sister is Susan. I should mention her because she also likes to ride horses. So we have that.
She's the one.
She's the one who
It's genetic, perhaps.
Possibly, yeah. But I can't. She does jumping and everything. I don't.
Because she's living in Greensboro.
She's in Greensboro, but
that's Virginia.
That is much more Virginia. Yeah. Anyway, it is, but she's wonderful, and all the kids love to be together and love to be at Topsail, and so it's a nice thing that attracts them. Even over Christmas, they like to go there for New Year's, which is fun.
Yeah, I'm not a grandparent, but I imagine
I recommend it.
It sounds like a good gig. I imagine one of the things you think about a lot is how can I attract my kids, my grandkids, to spend some time with us. And being at Topsail is certainly one of those ways.
Trains and Topsail.
Yeah, they both work.
Who would think?
They both work, though, right?
It is interesting, though. Last year, over New Year's, who would think that the part of the entertainment would be singing all the songs from Hamilton? Just play the soundtrack, and everybody, all the kids knew.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. Across generations. Yeah, it was amazing. All right, Ashland Music Variety Show. When was the first year?
82.
And you were a part of it. Mm-hmm. You were a big part of it. Mm-hmm.
Harold Wright and I started it.
Harold Wright taught drama at
teacher
PH.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I was in a couple of his plays when I was a younger kid.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
What were you in?
I was
Susan was in Sound of Music.
So was I. Mm-hmm. No, I was with her. She was the
youngest.
The youngest, and I played the second oldest, even though I was the second youngest. I remember that high pitched part that Friedrich has to sing. I had to do that.
Did you?
And I'll just tell you this story real quickly. Condi Hopkins, God rest her soul, was sitting in the front row when my voice broke, and I could hit that high note, and she thought it was the funniest thing she had ever witnessed. And I couldn't take my eyes off.
I wish we had a video of that.
Thank goodness we do not.
Oh, I wish. No, the whole thing. Susan.
I remember. Susan was the youngest. Yeah, that's awesome.
It's time to go. I cannot tell it lie. Whatever.
Yeah, right.
And then she was the last one to go, or I don't know.
Yeah.
But that was fun.
I forgot Susan and I were in that play.
And they also did Oliver.
I was.
Were you in Oliver too?
I was orphan number 17.
Well, she was an orphan too. But so Harold had made his contributions in drama.
Absolutely.
At Patrick Henry, and so when they were looking for some way to raise money at the Hanover Arts and Activity Center, I'm not quite sure how. Oh, I know. We were sitting in Nancy Hugo's kitchen, Roseanne Schauf and Nancy Hugo and I. And we were saying, sort of like Judy Garland would say to Mickey Rooney, let's put on a show.
Yeah.
And we started doing it, and it sort of grew. And Harold was the obvious person to help with his drama background. And that was, so we did it in 82, 83, and every odd year since, until the pandemic.
So that's right. It was every other year. And it's become a real love affair for you, I imagine.
Yeah.
It has been for quite some time now.
Well, it is interesting because the last show we've had now has been 2017.
Oh.
And then we tried to do a virtual one in 2019, but we could not even justify getting people together to rehearse. You couldn't get, you just couldn't put people in a room singing and dancing, and we were afraid we would be exposing people to, because the cast has traditionally 400 people in it.
Yeah, this was in 2020 or 20?
No. The last time we did a show was 2017.
Okay.
And we did Lori Foley and I did a thing at the Ashland Theater with videos.
Oh, got it.
When we couldn't do a show in 2019. But then we thought about trying to do something virtual in 21, and it was just too scary to get people together, even to stand. I mean, you can't do, well, anyway.
It wouldn't have worked.
No, it was just not worth the effort.
But it's coming back next year.
It's coming back, and I was telling Rob, coming over here tonight, there's still a lot to be done.
Oh, I imagine it's nerve-wracking. There's a lot to put together.
Yes, there are a lot of movable parts, and there are lots of people, and people, are genuinely tend to be just wonderful about working together. And through the years, we've had some experiences. Most of the experiences have been really very positive, but when you get that many people singing and dancing together, there are very important bonds and relationships that develop. Oh, yeah. And in casting the show, we deliberately try to put people together who are not necessarily just their own little friends.
Widens their eyes, makes them a little more worldly. Yeah.
And this year, particularly because of all the realities of the COVID and the pandemic and real serious health stuff, we're going to try to focus on, in some way, and when the people sign up for the show, invite them to turn over to the back page and write something about what the show has meant to you.
That's great.
In terms of, I always talk about it, community building through the arts. And that's really stretching arts, because we do have some people who are really talented, and we have a lot of people who have a good time and, enjoy it. And Rob can tell you about some of his experiences on stage in various get-ups.
Can I ask Rob a quick question about the variety show? Rob, when you participated in the variety show, did you do it because you love being on stage, or did you feel forced at any point to do it? Rob is
definitely not, and I plead the fifth.
Rob and his family were wonderful.
They're huge.
Yeah.
Right?
Uh-huh.
Yep.
And that's been true of a lot of, we were just talking
There's been a lot of great families.
A lot of families that have done lots of things, and it's, it's all ages of family members, and to be able to have that shared experience on stage, but backstage and off stage. And so I'm looking at this because I'm still trying to work out how we're going to, we try not to have the show, but you have to bring a sleeping bag, which is not easy when you got 400 people in the show.
Right.
But trying to end the show on some note about, what I did for love, because you really do develop friendships. You can go into Food Lion most any time and run into people who are glad to see each other.
Right.
Because we did some gospel number or did some crazy tap number or whatever that you might not see otherwise. All ages of people.
Can you give me an evaluation of Stop in the Name of Love from the very first variety show?
I was just about to
how you would give us a review.
I was not in the original purple dress. It was Audrey Reynolds, someone called Bonnie Benton, and Betty Carol Stevenson, and I've forgotten the one in the back's name. I think it was Brenda.
Yeah, Brenda something. Yeah,
Brenda something. And then Bonnie the next year, Bonnie did not. Maybe it was the next year or the next year. Anyway, Bonnie was the first one that dropped out, and so I got the job of Bonnie's job.
You were Bonnie for the second time around.
The second time around, maybe. Yeah, I think that's right.
Well, do you remember the sons of the original four?
Oh, of course, of course.
It's-
With your hairy arms.
Oh my gosh, Sue!
Every time you raised your arms.
our mothers put us in blonde wigs.
Oh,
that dress.
that dress and the blonde wigs are under my bed in the guest room.
Really?
Waiting to be used. But there's a red dress too. In fact, I had a conversation with your mother this week about who's going to do some work on the blonde wig so that they can be worn. But one of the things that Betty Carroll wrote somewhere, and because we've lost so many important people in recent years, including Betty Carroll, but she wrote something about one of the most exciting things that had happened to her was when you jump out with that
it's
dress,
awesome, yeah.
and the response from the audience,
People are howling.
because they've
Howling.
never seen anything like it. So it's fun to do, and I look forward. We're going to do it again.
Good. That's awesome. That's fantastic.
Well, do you think?
I've only worn makeup one time in my life, and it was for that particular act.
Do you? If you can get me to talk into this microphone.
Sounds like I'm being recruited, maybe. I've not had any talent my entire life or anything that puts you on a stage.
Talent
I
is
will-
not a request
Yeah.
requirement.
That's why I'm in it. Talent's not a requirement.
But it was. I won't even go into it. There have been real interesting desires on whether old, young, male, female, just buddies. But everybody's had such a good time, I think, doing that number. It's just such a
I had a great time.
so silly.
Yeah.
It's true silliness.
Yeah, and I appreciate and enjoy silliness.
But we think it will be in the lineup.
I love it. I will come just for that one act.
Well, it's worth it. And
Absolutely.
Renda and I were
You'll
talking.
come because you'll be doing it.
But we were talking about the fact somebody said, well, we can get singers, and we can get singers because we also have this Hanover Idols, and we do have some really good singers who could sing, who could be the Supremes. But I'm not sure. It's so nice to know that you got it exactly, the way you do.
Oh, it's amazing.
It's choreographed very well.
I at that point, I mean, we were 15, 16 years old. I didn't admit that I enjoyed it, but I had a blast doing that.
It's the best time on stage to see an audience react so vigorously
You and I are a handful of people that know what that's
in the
like.
whole world.
Yeah.
And it's fun.
I've seen that video, and I remember the audience and how they react. And then recently we did things that didn't quite reach that level, but like I remember doing the synchronized swimming that we did was.
It's
It's
very
like Paul
similar.
said, it's just you get such a reaction, and it's just
And it's worth it.
it really is. So it's a lot of fun.
And I think the cast probably has as much or more fun than the audience in many cases.
Yeah.
Well, and you're putting as many people on stage that can fit in the theater there, right? Or
Yes,
the
and
auditorium.
the college has just redone the whole performing arts area,
It's
which
gorgeous.
is really nice.
It's
Yes.
gorgeous.
And so we're hopeful that we can use the sound system we can use it. And they've got Randolph-Macon is the only college in Virginia that has a show choir. And Blackwell is the home of the show choir.
Right.
So we're working with Adam Polliver, who is the show choir person. And they've got wonderful risers. We don't have to be lugging, if you've had that experience backstage, lugging those risers in and out so everybody could be seen.
And they extended the stage too. They pushed it out a little bit.
But we've got to figure out having the pit for our band, which is a good size, because the pit for the band is sort of under some of that extended stage.
Oh! I did not know that. Okay.
Well, we're going to figure it out.
Have your grandkids been to the variety show?
The English ones are trying to figure out how they can go back. I don't know how that'll work. We'll see, but they like it.
And we have to mention Chris Dull is
She is here.
What does she do for the variety show?
She is the backbone of the variety show. She doesn't know that she has that job again this year, but she's tried to sort of slip away, but she's had enough of a break to get over the.
She's had quite the break.
And it was nice of her to take her time to get restored and ready.
Yeah, she should be well rested.
Well rested to. She prefers to be in an administrative backstage thing, but it's time that she joins her husband in some of the on stage things as well as the backstage things.
I think that's right.
I think that's only, and she's so good at it. I mean, she really is. I have to tell you.
You're the authority here.
Yes, but I'm saying that there are people in our world who don't, the audience has no idea, like Chris and Rob, who just make something like doing the variety show totally worthwhile, because not just because of the friendships that you form there. I mean, and was friends with Rob's mother, but to get to know the whole family and be together for the time, which is pretty intense during the course of rehearsals and all. And then there's a bond that develops during that period, and you just don't. It's unique.
Yeah.
It's truly musically, doing silly stuff and getting to see these kids grow like they do is fun and wonderful.
Yeah, they're kids that were preteens doing it back in the 80s that are in their 40s and 50s now. There are not many opportunities to get to sing in a choir with all these different people, different abilities and whatever. Some people can barely hit a note, but it doesn't matter. I mean, you're describing my entire family.
No, not true. Not true. It's worth going through the whole the process is certainly as important as the final result.
And I think most of it's fun. Yes,
we try not. It can't be high stress. It has to be something that we can all learn, sort of.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't. Somebody who's never put on a pair of tap shoes would not naturally choose to be in a tap number, but we can. There are always opportunities. The last show we did, I can't believe this was one of the last ones. I think it was. Did Brick House a song? I think was a song we were singing. I think Kelly and Clark Mercer had just moved to town.
I believe that's right. Yeah.
And we were doing a little choreography, which they got into very easily and quickly, and people were sort of having a moment in the spotlight coming down doing, was it Brick House? I think it was, anyway.
I remember wearing the brick cardboards on my feet. So, yeah.
Of course you did.
Rob's a gamer. He's up for all kinds of fun
anyway,
stuff.
So at the end of that number, then Clark has told me this several times since. He said he could not believe it that I said, now let's stop and let's all sing the Ashland song. And they looked at each other and they said, the Ashland song? We live in a town that has a song and, 400 people know it.
It's probably at that moment he realized he was in the center of the universe.
He learned it very fast. He was a quick study, but that is fun.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And unique.
All right, so when you think of Ashland, and we've talked about a lot of things that scream Ashland, but when you think about Ashland, what are a couple of your fondest memories outside of the things we've already talked about?
Well, I think it's special also because it is a college town, and we are lucky to have the things that happen here, whether it's basketball or whatever. The Richmond Symphony coming here, just there's always something and somebody who's speaking or whatever. And the college is always very welcoming to people. I just think that there are ways that we can get together, whether it's the Untold Stories program that brings people together. There are a lot of people who are very serious about trying to preserve the story of Ashland. The Ashland Museum has these wonderful programs with people who talk about whatever it is, how you research the kind of home you have and what your home, or people who've made a difference. And in the history of not just Ashland but Hanover County. We have Hanover Idols, who are people who really can sing.
Right.
It's a competition. We don't do competitions for the show. God, thank God. Can you imagine?
It is meant to be entertaining and fun, not competitive.
But the people who were Amy Mines, Derek Hyde, and some of the Aunt Audrey Kate, and I should not talk about the people without naming all the names. But anyway, there is real talent here. And some of them will come back. Max Cook may come back and do something. Be a part of the serious music. I don't mean serious, but
I get you.
Who can,
Yeah.
He had the lead in the opera at his college. So
That's pretty unusual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
It's reaching a height that most people don't get to.
Mm-hmm.
It's the opposite of this guy.
Yeah.
But all talent is.
I've never heard Rob sing, and I'm guessing there's a reason for that. But
Hey, I was in choir 4 years ago.
oh, excuse me.
Yeah. I didn't hear that because I won't sing in the variety show.
Tell us a little bit more about Untold Stories.
We I can't remember maybe how many times we've done it, but every February it's sort of, what are we going to do something that is part of Black history, but it focuses on the whole dynamics of people of color and whatever. And had a group together, and Tom Wolfe is just a real treasure for this town. He has done, quite deliberately gone and sat down with people who have since died, but has just fabulous videos of their talking, whether it's Dorothy Jones and Louise Jones over at their house. And so doing what you're doing, but with the video part of it too.
Right.
But so we wanted to get it on tape, but at the same time have people deliberately deal with some issues that unless you verbalize it, you don't know how people felt and what happened.
You don't improve your understanding in the world
Of anything.
and the world doesn't get a little bit better because of it.
Exactly. So, and I can't even remember maybe when we did the first show, but we've been doing it for some years and do it. For a long time, we were doing it either at the Hanover Arts and Activity Center or in a church. But the last show was at Patrick Henry, which felt really good.
Yeah.
Because that's where, the color guard can present the colors, and it just feels like we had students who were had questions that they could interview the panelists later, and some teachers would give them an assignment and they could learn something about that came out of the discussion, because it's to know real people. Evidently there was a walkout in the 60s at Patrick Henry I've never heard of, and two guys who experienced it in their personal way or have agreed to be on the panel.
That's great.
And just tell what they remember. And nobody checks facts. I mean, what you remember is important for your experience.
It's their memory. Yeah.
Exactly. And so it will be good. We've gotten the permission to do it. Now we've just got to get it straight.
That'll be great.
But I think we've got our panel. Someone called me today and said she would do it. So 3 male, 3 female, 3 black, 3 white. And with Jamel Wilson doing the closing comments, and she's hard to beat because she's just great. She's good at articulating everything. We'll have a community gospel choir for that too. I think Donnie Morris is going to do it, but I'm not sure. I shouldn't say that because he hasn't.
I think we just committed him here on the podcast.
Maybe we did. I don't know. We'll see. I think John Gordon was going to talk to him, I think.
I'll talk to him too.
Well, you good.
Oh, absolutely.
I'll ask John if he's gotten a yes, and if he hasn't, I'll let you know.
Okay. Yeah.
Because he's good,
Absolutely. All right. So, Rob, do you want to ask the fun question we tend to ask towards the end of this?
Sure. So this is just a question to kind of thought provoke you and see what you come up with. So
It's not a test.
Not a test. So like Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel, one of them is sick, and you've been hired to host their TV show for one night and one night only, and you are going to interview a male, a female, a musical act, And if you are interested, you can also do a comedian. And they can be alive.
You get to pick these guests.
You get to pick these guests. They can be alive or dead. This can be for a big famous show. It can be personal. It can be for whatever reason you want.
Fun,
Yep.
thought-provoking, whatever you want it to be.
So,
or all of the above.
One male, one female.
This is meant to be a little bit more revealing about
you. Yep.
And Rob and I will sing while you're thinking if you want us to.
Oh, that would be good. Start.
Rob did throw out 4 years of singing in college.
You can ask Chris now. That voice has changed a lot. So.
Lord. If I were going to have my own TV show with an unlimited supply of people, dead or alive, you said.
Yeah, but one male. You can have 2 of each if you want, but one male, one female, one musical act, and then
But can be dead or alive.
Dead or alive.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, my favorite thing that we've done recently, and I'm sort of embarrassed because it's abundance of riches, is the Music Man that's on Broadway. Hugh Jackman and Sutton Foster are the stars of it, and Ritchie had always loved Music Man, and so I tried to got tickets for it for him. It's his birthday, and then they kept postponing the show for the pandemic, and finally it was a year before we could get to it, which was wonderful. And then when Jane Larkin went off to Wellesley, we had to drive up there. She said, well, can't we just spend the night in New York on the way, because you have to rest when you're traveling. So we did that, and she and Susan and I went to see Music Man again. And then this Thanksgiving, Emma Forbes and Susan, Greensboro people, and we're going to do Music Man again, which is a little abundance. I shouldn't be saying all of that, but it is truly a gift, the whole experience is. And so if I were going to interview somebody musical, it would be fun to talk to Hugh Jackman and Sutton Foster. She's about the best dancer, tap dancer.
So those are your male and female.
Yeah.
Are they also performing for you on your show? They can.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice? Oh, yes, they would perform a number.
It's your show.
Yeah, it would be a good number. They will be through the middle of January, so they could come down for the Ashland Musical Variety Show.
There it is.
You go.
And then we'd have to have the show. That would be
And you can do the talk show. And you can record here, and we'll figure out video.
And
Yeah.
then the audiences at Blackwell would be wrapped around.
I don't know that we could tell anybody that Hugh Jackman was in my house.
No, I think he has a real following. He's just charming, and the whole cast is just wonderful.
He's one of the 10 most famous people on earth, probably, at this point.
Well, yeah.
He's done a lot, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And provokes, I don't know what it is. He just has this charisma that is amazing. And she's similar. So anyway, so that would be in terms of a musical
Okay.
guest.
I like that.
Although, I wouldn't mind seeing James Taylor again and having, he and Carole King.
James is still going, right?
I know. We saw him in the Coliseum in Richmond, and he's one of these people, if you ever go to his concert, he stands on the stage at intermission and signs record labels, vinyl, which is really neat.
A sweetheart of a guy, right?
He is, yeah. And we saw him do something in D.C. with Carole King, and the two of them together are just to die for, because they both did back up.
They're both powerhouses.
Yeah, they are.
I saw
So they would be.
James came to King's Dominion a couple
Did he
times.
really?
Mm-hmm. Saw him there. Yep.
We're trying to we were trying to get audience participation in this year's variety show, and things like Sweet Caroline would be good. Do you think we could get Neil Diamond to come back? I don't think he'll do that. So
we can tell about the train tracks.
I don't think it will work. So that
Right, that's a great musical act. What
Okay.
about your male and female?
now remind me what this.
It can be any male, any female, dead or alive, famous, not famous. It can be a friend of yours. It can be the most
family
famous
member.
person on earth. It can be whatever you want it to be.
Well, I would have to say some of my relatives that would, if dead relatives, would be.
Okay.
It would be nice to have Ritchie and me both see our parents
Okay.
and talk.
All right. Yeah. Your parents passed a while ago. Be great to have them back. And you'd have a lot of fun things to talk about.
Would not be boring. Love for them to see these kids.
Yeah, no.
They only saw them as babies.
Yeah, it's hard to keep 4 generations going. Yeah,
That would be fun.
yeah,
That was my answer last week. Was my dad. Yeah.
yeah.
So.
All right, tell us what you and Ritchie have going on these days.
Oh, Lord. Well, Ritchie is a consummate and wonderful gardener. He's very persnickety. In fact, the irony that I'm in the garden club and he's the one who does all the gardening and has all the ideas. But and Jamel Wilson is another serious gardener, and I was talking to her this week about something. I know about doing this Untold Stories thing. And I was sitting in the sun porch, and I love to look out. We have a huge magnolia tree in the backyard. And the year we moved to this house in 1974, I went to Rose's and for some reason bought this magnolia tree for $1.50 and put it in the yard.
It's thrived.
And it's thrived, and it's huge and beautiful. But it's the only thing that I've ever contributed to the entire yard for $1.50.
Sounds like it's the centerpiece of the backyard.
Well, no. But I was talking to Jamel, and she's a serious gardener like Ritchie is, and they talk serious gardening. But it was fun to think about that kind of, I don't know why I thought of that, but it's a positive thought about where we live and what we do.
He enjoys doing it, and you enjoy.
And he enjoys that.
And you enjoy.
He's a
backyard.
good beach. We love the same kind of things. We love Topsail Beach and love the family that goes with it, which is his family, and it's not a boring family. Neither of our families were boring. We have a scheduled for the 4th of July week and different events and family, and there are about 6 or 7 cottages of his family that full, so there are probably 50 or so people. But this past year we had expanded our deck a little bit so we could do things outside more. So we had a lasagna dance party. And
Who doesn't like a good lasagna dance party?
Exactly. And the kids, our children from 18 to 8, I guess, we had one of the older cousins had the sound system. I mean, he could, just be the disc jockey.
Right.
And we danced, and the kids danced. It was really fun to see some of them. Thomas, he's now 6'2", but I'd never seen him, shake his hips and carry on and dance and sing along. It was really fun to have all the.
It's a great memory.
Yes, a good memory. And then, but we kept getting carried away. And would you believe at 11:45, guess who walked up the front deck?
Huh.
The police. A neighbor had called, but the noise ordinance says you can, until midnight or 11 o'clock. Maybe it was 11 o'clock, but we had turned off the music back then. It was some renters in a neighbor's house. But we thought, oh my gosh. But the kids are eager to have another lasagna dance party.
They should. It sounds like the first one was a good one.
Just singing and dancing together. Again, like the variety show. There's something to be said for that kind of.
It brings out a spirit that doesn't come out.
Right, and there's no competition or whatever. It's good.
You're all there to enjoy it together.
Yes, and fortunately you can do it outside at the beach at night when it isn't so hot. But anyway.
Well, so I will say this. Every time I see you and Ritchie, I smile, and I haven't seen you guys nearly enough. I saw you a ton when I was younger, but not so much.
That's because you moved east.
Not too far east, though. But I come into town, I see my parents, and then I zip back to where I live. And, of course, we have 3 kids, and I have a job and all that. But you and Ritchie make a lot of people happy, and I'm very appreciative of you doing this tonight.
Well,
I really am.
You're very welcome. I don't think I have no idea that anybody would be interested except
I can think of some grandkids.
Well,
and
some
a couple
grandchildren
of daughters.
would, yes, and that would be fine.
And I think a lot of people that you have served the community with.
Well,
I will check this out too. We just got to tell them about it.
If you must.
We'll get Chris and Rob, and I will certainly work on
Well,
that.
thank you. You all are very generous and very kind and make you feel like we haven't made absolute fools of ourselves in the process.
We may have, but who cares? No, we did not. We were good tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to wherever you listen to podcasts. We'd also really appreciate if you'd rate and review us. You can find us at scodupodcast.com.